A couple of weeks ago, the two of us were in Tokyo, Japan, covering all the amazing things at Tokyo Game Show, such as larger-than-life booths from Konami, Capcom, Hoyoverse, Sega, and more, an amazing array of beautiful indie games from all over the world, and of course, a hands-on session with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This week, we deep dive into our experience at TGS, including some hilarious stories, like how I got to meet one of Rino's biggest gaming heroes without her. This is the 20M Podcast.
Welcome to the 20M Podcast, everyone. Today I am your co-host. My name is Rino, and we are joined by other co-host, Arief. Hello, Arief.
Hello, Rino. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm cooled here. I've got like the AC on in my room, but I'm cooling down from the insanely hot Tokyo Game Show weekend that we had.
As soon as you said cool, I was like, this is going to be a segue about how freaking hot it was at Tokyo Game Show. I feel like we are very lucky, like genuinely, that we did not pass out, because I think people did. And we're not talking about how hot the game releases were or the demos were. It was just like temperature-wise, it was just very, very hot. But before we start complaining about Tokyo Game Show, let's just kind of like step back a bit and be like, wow, we both were at Tokyo Game Show. 20M was at Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, which is awesome. And like we've kind of like teased this in previous episodes as well, that, you know, we were going to be at Tokyo Game Show, that I was traveling to Japan because you're obviously based in Japan and you went last year. This is my first Tokyo Game Show. But like, man, the moment of walking into TGS and, you know, being there and being like, we're flipping here, you know what I mean? Like, you and I, like, we haven't done a physical trade show together, if I'm not mistaken. But then second, for me, it's like, I always love, like, I get so jealous of my friends talking about TGS. It's just like holy crap, this is awesome to be in. Obviously, I got warmed up a little bit more, pun intended there, I guess, like towards the end of the show when things started to really like blossom and kind of like come together. But yeah, like TGS was, what a crazy experience. I can't believe we were at TGS.
I mean, I will say, like, so TGS was like 4 days long, right? And I was only there on the first day. You were there for the first and the second day. But, like, I remember on the first day, I got there early and I texted you, I was like, hey, come, I'm here. And then, like, you arrived and I was like, look at all this stuff, you know, like, look, it's so big. It's like Tekken and it's like Hoyoverse. And you were like, oh, yeah. and I was like, bro. And then you were like, oh, you know, when you've been to a lot of these exhibitions, they're kind of all the same. And I was like, no, like I was like, in my mind, I'm like, you're just not warmed up yet.
Yeah.
And I meant that more like metaphorically, because like physically, I think we were both very, 100%. Very hot, and that actually made it worse. Like that kind of just meant like we wanted to leave.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
But I know that you texted. Yeah, when you texted me when I'd already left you, and they were much more excited, and you were like so like on that like cloud nine of like, oh my god, I love games. But I do remember the first day. I do kind of want to get out of the way. It was just very, very hot. Like, not even just like, we're Malaysians, okay? We're used to this. We're used to the heat. We know what it's like. But it was uncomfortable, and it definitely hindered the experience of a lot of people. And I think it was only on the business day that they didn't turn the AC on, because like, I don't know, we're not worthy of comfort. But now that we've got that out of the way, I thought we could kind of talk about Tokyo Game Show in terms of highlights, because there's just so much to cover, right? So I'll kind of toss it to you. You can mention, you know, something that was really exciting for you, and then I'll mention something. So we'll kind of go like one for one. And then I know some of the experiences we shared together that we love, but some of them I missed out on because I wasn't there on the second day, and I really want to know more about like what happened.
Yeah, I want to kind of end this episode with this, because I think I have a lot to say, but I'll just say that the reason why Tokyo Game Show was so cool was because for the first time, they had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth open for people to play. They had 100 booths for people to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'll start with that, but amazing. I'll probably share my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth like impressions and story maybe towards the end of this podcast, but I'll just say that was one of the main reasons why Tokyo Game Show was flipping awesome. I'll maybe start by saying, like, overall impressions of TGS is just like, it is such an awesome thing to be at, because it's a perfect balance of like amazing Japanese games whilst also having like a very international crowd, in my opinion, or kind of like industry people that were also very international. My overall impression of TGS, I guess, is just like, yes, it was hot, like whatever, right? But to have indie games, like so many Southeast Asian indie games, so many of our, you know, friends and, you know, people that we hang out with a lot here in Southeast Asia, be at TGS and show off their games there, was awesome. But then the second thing is also just like international developers, both on like, you know, the larger end, but also the indie end were also there. And to me, like, that is the epitome of why these types of major trade shows, I think, are awesome compared to like more indie specific ones, maybe like company specific ones and whatnot. It's just the plethora of people that are there. So I just had a blast like going through a major, like for example, walking through this giant like Bandai Namco like mech of a display, and then walking over 2 rows over, and then seeing an indie section where Devolver Digital is at, right? Like that to me is the beauty of video games. But yeah, those are my overall impressions. Rita, did you have like any overall impressions for TGS this year? Because I know you were at TGS last year, and then I want to share my funny first story out of TGS.
I already know what it's going to be, and I know I'm not going to like it. Overall impressions compared to the previous year. So this year is the biggest it's ever been. Like not even just like post-COVID, like just like in the history of Tokyo Game Show is what they're reporting is like the biggest number of guests, number of like booths and everything like that. And I think that's, again, that's how you walk in and you see like the giants of the video game industry, and it makes you feel like so empowered as a gamer. I think it's a very powerful feeling. But then, of course, the trade-off is that it's a less intimate experience than, maybe some of the cons you've gone to in Southeast Asia. It's definitely less intimate than Bit Summit, which I went to earlier this year. And compared to the previous year, we had 9 halls utilized last year, whereas this year I think it was 11 or 12. So they maxed out all of Makuhari Messe. The only thing I will say is that like when we wanted to go see the indies, which we're going to talk about later, we had to kind of walk quite a bit because it was in a separate area. Whereas last year it was like hall 9, whereas like all the bigger ones were like from hall 1 to 7. So it was like joined. I felt like this time was a little bit separate, but also good that they put the merch with the indies because it meant people were still going to go there anyway. But otherwise, like, I don't know, like it still worked out well in the end because I think people still went there. But it was also kind of far off in that, maybe some people didn't go there because it wasn't part of like the main section. So like hall 1 to 9 is like here, if you guys can imagine like that. And then like the last 2 ones are like over somewhere here where you kind of have to walk a path like that. Overall, yeah, really, really, really cool. A lot of amazing games that I know we want to get into talking about. So I'll let you go first. You tell me about your funny, amazing experience.
I want to say this caveat here. So Reno was only there for the first half of TGS. And I guess like the first business day we were both at, but the second half of the first business day and the second day only I was at TGS, right? And I think there were so many moments that happened on the latter half where Reno wasn't on the grounds itself that I think was made for Reno, and I just stole that experience. I'll start by saying I'm walking with a couple of developer friends. We're trying to get food or something, and we're trying to go to this like the food truck area, which is like through some of the main halls or whatever. And then there's a giant, Bandai Namco has a giant display there, and a giant Tekken 8 display where you have a bunch of people playing Tekken 8. And then I see like a panel going on. It's a pretty small panel. I think there's only like 30 people or so like watching the actual panel on one of the business days. And then I'm like, oh, that guy looks a little familiar. He looked like, is that? And then I look closer, it's like, I whispered, I think, I can remember who was next to me. And I was like, is that Harada-san? It's like, the godfather of Tekken, like the Tekken. The man, like Tekken Harada. And I'm like, oh my God, it is. And he's just like on a panel and just chatting with some other folks on the panel. And I'm like, I'm looking around and it's a pretty small like press conference kind of like thing. And I was like, are people not freaking out? That's like Harada right in front of me, And then it's like, okay, they finished the press conference. Like, he walks over to the booth and I'm with a couple of friends and we're like, I really want to get a photo with Harada, but he's inside the area. I don't want to go into the Bandai Namco area because then I'll probably have to play the game. I'll probably get stuck in a seat. So exactly.
Like, you don't want to play the game. You want to take a photo with Harada. And I'm like, I'm in Europe, like screaming this out, like.
And the caveat here is that I am not a Tekken person, friends. I played Tekken 3 and that was my jam, but like I'm not a Tekken person. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't really want to sit down and play Tekken 8, like because I, in the moment, like to meet Harada, like play Tekken 8 or meet Harada, So I like kind of loiter around and we're like waiting for some people, and then I see Harada and he's like in front of the Tekken 8 like section, and I just go up to him and it's like, oh, Harada-san, like, can I get a photo? Thanks for all you do. And he just does.
Thanks for all you do. What do you?
He's wearing, come on, like make fighting games like so modern and revolutionary to this day and age. He's got sunglasses on. He's got like an all blacks t-shirt, and he's just like super cool. And he just does the and then I take out the camera and he's doing the pose. Yeah, and I'm with Sugita from Soda Theory, and like there's a couple other people around us as well. So we got the awesome photo with Harada, and then. It's just awesome because again, like the fact when you connect it to like TGS and why these things are awesome, you can have those amazing celebrity micro moments that I think are so fun. And even though we're press, we're very blessed to like be covering the show, but also have these like fan moments because like we're some fans of games at the end of the day. But to be able to have that with like proper booths and like a whole display and everything, make it official yet like intimate that way was so awesome. But I felt so bad because out of all the people to meet Harada, you should have been the person.
Didn't. You were happy.
I was so happy. Happy.
We have like full context is we have a group chat with our friends who are all going to be at TGS, right? And because I was in Europe, I think I was catching up to messages at like insane o'clock time, and I was going through it, and I think the first message I saw that like because I was half asleep reading this, the first message I saw was from Jun, our friend Jun from Xbox, and he wrote something like, finally, like Arief has one up Rino, and I was like, what? And then like I didn't get it, and then like scrolled up, and I was like, no, I'm screaming this out loud. I was like, what the hell? Oh my god, that is so cool. That is really, really cool. And maybe we can put the incriminating photo up here.
Yeah. My photo with Harada.
Yeah.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's like, again, like I wish we could, in the future, hopefully we can obviously set up interviews and we can meet like these people in a more official capacity, like have some like proper like coverage going on. But it's the beauty of these trade shows where you're just bumping into people that are like, major influential people in the games industry. Like, again, like I'm not a Tekken guy, but I know the importance of like Harada and like his influence over this industry. You know what I mean? And it's like super senior at Bandai Namco. And it's like part of the reason why Bandai Namco is Bandai Namco as well, right? So it's just awesome to have those moments. So I'm so sorry, Reno, but yes, I had an awesome photo with Harada, and I cannot believe that was just a per chance moment. I was like, is that
him just hanging out there, just having a drink? No, that's awesome though. All right.
Hit me with the next thing, which I think we can both share, like some of the next shared experience at TGS.
Yeah, so I managed to at least catch a little bit of this one on the first day. So the Hoyoverse had a massive showing this year. All of their IP was out, which is insane to think because last year they had nothing, just on the digital showcase for Tokyo Game Show. And their competitors like Tower of Fantasy, rest in peace, were out in full force. So it was really, really cool to see Hoyoverse like really come back in a big way. They had it was a giant, I guess like kind of like a square, right? And then they would just occupy different sections. So they had the Honkai Star Rail part here, and then they had Genshin here, and they had a really tiny section for Tears of Themis there. But it was cool because it's so suitable for the game, but also kind of like creepily parasocial. It was like a wedding. It was like a wedding aisle, so people could walk down the aisle and like take a photo with their husband or whoever, like they were getting married. That was the funniest thing. And then they had the like Honkai the Third as well. So that was really cool because you kind of go around and if I know a lot of Hoyo fans are fans of all of the games, so they would just like kind of like rotate. But also you could also see the discrepancy in like what was more popular than the other, right? Because I know when we checked it out, Genshin was like packed because they were like giving out free stuff, and then Star was packed as well because they were announcing something. But the Honkai the Third, which I think hasn't had an update in a while, it was kind of empty. And then Tears of Themis just had like a few like hopefuls, people who wanted to get married. But it was just cool because they had the what's it called, the Astral Express was there, right? Kind of like the front part of it, the engine part. They had Pom Pom gazing you from the top there, super adorable. And yeah, just love seeing everything. They had standees with the characters as well. I know I took a photo with a specific character from Genshin. I can't pronounce his name. It's like Nuvilette. That was my cool experience. But Arief has also one-upped me in this scenario. What happened?
I mean, we had an awesome time there, but it was quite packed, and I think we were trying to do some other stuff at the show. But I went back to the Hoyoverse booth, and like I said, I think you kind of nailed it, where even though all their games some were popular more than others, and you could definitely see that in the crowds when they started to pour in on Friday. The fact that Hoyoverse can be at that show and show off all their properties in one booth to serve their fans is awesome, because if I was a major Hoyoverse, I would just like do that full circle, right, or around the square. But I'll say that I'll pull up just like some stuff. I went to the Star Rail section to get some goodies and kind of experience the little thing that they had, and I thought it was awesome because maybe this is a story about like how to utilize booths in a way that is kind of like very corporate and very like capitalistic, but also at the end of the day like serving fans. Because I met up coincidentally with a streamer friend of mine. Like I've known this person for forever, who we've never met in person because she's based in Japan, but Courageous Panda. And I was hanging out with Courage Panda, and I was like, "Hey, like, do you want to check out the Hoyoverse booth?" So we both went to the Hoyoverse booth, and we did the Star Rail section. And essentially, you can get a free gacha opportunity, like an IRL gacha opportunity, if you do 3 activities at the Star Rail booth. So the first one was sign up, like show them your Hoyoverse account and sign up, like scan a QR code or whatever. So it's cool that it actually integrates to your own Hoyoverse account. That's number one. They give you a stamp. Then the second one, I think, was go through the actual section and, you know, take a picture of the Astral Express, like go through the little thing, just go through the little Star Rail section, which like wasn't too much. It was mostly photo ops, I would say. And then at the end, you can kind of play a little bit of Star Rail. But then the third thing was just tweet about it. Right, so did all 3, and then they give you this awesome, like, and I think some people have gotten these from different events. Yes, a Star Rail passenger booklet passport, and I think it's so cool because it has like, I've yet to fill it out, but it's like an actual like passport kind of a scenario.
That's awesome.
And they give you a special stamp, and I think my goal is to, like, whenever we do like Hoyoverse or Star Rail type events, like I'm just gonna get this passport filled.
They should definitely have that, right? I'm sure they'll do. I don't know if they will. But
I mean, I think they gave these away at the events that they did for Hoyofest as well. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's just awesome that they have this. But then at the end, when we got the gacha, I think like Courage Panda did the first gacha, and like they pulled it out, and then the staff was like, "Oh my god, you got it!" And then it's like, I think Courage got the S tier gacha thing, which was a Danheng puzzle.
Wow, nice.
Physical and then I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm pretty good with my luck at Hoyoverse. I pulled
you are.
I pulled solid characters in Star Rail. I pull it out, and it's just like the lamest thing ever. I don't think I even got it. It was nothing. It was like, oh, you
nothing.
Like, too bad.
Just failed gacha.
yeah.
Too bad.
But anyway, again, I guess like this is a thing about like how to utilize like how to service fans in a way that is like cool, meaningful, authentic, at the same time like having a closed loop ecosystem. But like the people that are fans of the game, if you already have an account, you get extra perks at these kinds of events. But again, just so cool to have Hoyoverse have games to play, but also these like more meaningful experiences. So yes, I got to take a picture next to the Astral Express. Dude, I forgot. I met Pom Pom.
I was like,
oh my god! Like as we're exiting the thing, like, you see a crowd like and a bunch of cameras, and I'm like, what the hell is that? You see Pom Pom walking around, and I'm like, we got to do it. And like I think they were pressed taking photos, and then I look at the staff, and I'm like trying to indicate like, can we take photos of Pom Pom? Yeah. And then the staff was like, yes. And then we let a couple of people go, and then me and Courage Panda took photos of Pom Pom. It's so funny. Again, there's like fan moments, if you will, that make up this like awesome trade show experience.
There is one game that we forgot to mention, which I only realized like just at this moment. Zenless
Zone Zero. I know the lines are too long. I couldn't play it. The lines are so long.
Yeah.
But I keep telling people that looks like my Hoyoverse game. But
it's a furry game. Furry game.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But onto another thing that I think it was so funny because there was a moment where we were walking through TGS, and I think there was a moment of exalt where you were just like, you were taken aback by something. Rina, do you want to walk me through what else we saw at TGS that made you stop in your tracks?
You don't understand how difficult this was for me because like this goes back to, this is why I explained the layout of Makari Mase earlier, because like I was messaging the group being like, I'm going to try and find the raincoat area, the raincoat booth or something. And then it was written there, I think hall 9 or hall 10. And like I go like, okay, this is like 1, 2, 3. And I get to 8, and where there was supposed to be 9 is just like a stone, like the stone wall, not even like a partition. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was texting the group being like, this is such a raincoat thing. This is such a Spike Chunsoft thing that like, as you get to the point where you think you're going to get there, it's like, it's not. Jokes, lol. It's not. And so I was freaking out being like, where is it? And then later on, I realized, oh, even though it's raincoat, it's in the merch section together with the indie booths as well, because I think they weren't there. They were there primarily to sell merch. It wasn't like you could play the game or anything. So when we finally got to the merch section, I think I like screamed or something, because what they had there was standees, like, you know, life-size cutouts of a lot of the main characters in Raincoat. And I think it's just one of those things. Like, I really, really love everything that Spike Chunsoft does, everything that 2K Games does. I love this game so much, and so few people I know have played it. It's a popular game. It's not AAA, but it's also not indie. It's just somewhere in that sort of like cult hit kind of section, right? So when I see it, I'm like, oh my god, I need this. I feel validated. Like this game I did not just make this game out in my mind. It's a real game that exists. So I was like, all right, take my photo, and then like, how about me with this guy, and then no, me with this guy, and you're like begrudgingly obliged, like, all right, yeah. Okay, the lighting's not good, all right, a little bit there. I'll be like, yeah.
I just want to make sure you look good in the these moments. And I was like, I know this is really important to you. I don't know any of these characters or Rinko, but like it is awesome. It's almost as like the heavens bestowed this like section upon you where it was empty because again we were there on the press day and there wasn't too many people and like walking around that section. It was also a little bit on the back part of the section of that hall, and then like it's just like light was shining down upon it. It's like take pictures with me, Reno, please. So yeah,
it was hilarious. I think it was the only merch I bought that day actually. Like when I went back, I got a t-shirt from there of Danganronpa the first game. I got a really nice mug, which not mug, like a little glass, which I'll bring on the next episode, which actually matches my Dragon Quest slime glass very well. But like as I was mentioning before, like I went to Europe like literally that day, so I brought all my merch with me to Europe, and then I brought it all the way back to Japan. So I've only just like unboxed the glass like yesterday. But no, awesome. I had an amazing time with my cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, and I think it's like just again awesome to have that kind of thing because you know how big Spike Chunsoft is, obviously like in Japan and around the world, but like I feel like it's inherently very like Japanese in terms of its audience base as well, right? But to have the game come out, and I think they had a panel on the days that we weren't there, but also have a section where you can have buy merch and also take pictures with standees. Like that's awesome. Again, to me, to be present at a show like that.
Yeah, it's very cool, and the merch was cool too. So they had the t-shirts, they had the glasses, they had curry as well for some reason.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just because.
Why not?
It's like, all right, why not? Yeah. So that's my little raincoat fangirl moment.
Yeah.
And then going back to you, what was your next highlight?
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention two bigger, like again, just to get the big things out of the way, the like things that you went into TGS and you could not escape. Number one, I think just very quickly is the Capcom booth with Dragon's Dogma. They had a giant dragon come out of the thing where you could take pictures and you could play Dragon's Dogma 2, which is I think if I'm not mistaken the first time you could play Dragon's Dogma 2 as well. But I could be wrong there. I didn't get to. I'm not the biggest Dragon's Dogma fan. I tried the first couple hours of the first one like earlier this year and just couldn't stick with me. But I know some friends. I think Burhan is like a huge Dragon Dogma person and whatnot. But you know the fact that they had that and like making a statement that Dragon's Dogma is going to be one of Capcom's like major games to come out in the coming months, coming years, like it's awesome to me. But it's funny. I'm stealing this line from somebody, one of our other journo like content friends, but it's funny that you forget how big Sega is in Japan. Where Sega, I think, has had this weird history overseas where Sonic, huge, right? But most of the other Sega properties are like kind of there, but still very like Japanese. And then now with the resurgence of obviously Sonic, obviously Yakuza, and then obviously Persona under Atlas, right? Is like Sega's on a whole another level. So the Sega booth to me was just awesome because they had a beautiful like Sonic, like hanging Sonic diorama, right? Which was awesome. But then you had the main stage where you had performances and it oscillated between Sonic, Yakuza, and Persona and all that kind of stuff where they had performances and LED screens and whatnot. But then you had sections where you could play Persona 3 as well and Persona 5 Tactica. If I'm not mistaken, I think Persona 5 Tactica for sure, and with Morgana. Like the Sega booth was just awesome and it was huge, and they were giving out the Persona bags like it was like candy, I guess, like just shoving it in people's like hands. But it's just a reminder that Sega is like back like they've come back like they have never before in a way where it's like they're massive and they're really milking it, and with due reason, because Yakuza is huge, Sonic is huge, and Persona is huge, and the stuff that they had at Persona booth was just like, as a Persona fan, like you couldn't not go see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you've just captured it exactly right. They have a lot of IP and a lot of very, very strong IP, and it's very diverse as well. So you're attracting all sorts of different types of fans, different types of gamers who are very interested. And yeah, it's just something about seeing, like I'm not a huge Sonic person, but just like seeing that diorama you're talking about, it's like, wow, it's like Sonic. He's like a million times larger than I am. It's like, oh, okay. Like it does create an impact. Like, when we talk about like, some exhibitions going like digital 100% online only, but when in person, unfortunately or fortunately, just hits different sometimes, and it's these moments that make you really feel it.
Yeah, I got to meet Sonic, so So plus, he weirdly tall. Like
really tall.
Like I'm used to the like early 2000s. Yeah,
it's taller than you look in your photos.
You know what's so funny to me? It's like, you know, like the bowing culture in like Japan a little bit more.
Did you bow to Sonic?
I kind of I just do a default like in Japan. I just kind of like when I want to like motion, I kind of do like a light like head nod or a bow. I can't believe I bowed to Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, because I know it's probably some Japanese dude like inside Sonic. Like, can I please approach you? No, but yeah, like just so cool to have that. But like, you know, on the note of booths, I want to talk about like a quick thing where another company that you forget is just huge is Konami. And I know Konami has had its history in video games for better or for worse in some ways, and like, you know, they've whatever direction they're going in is another like, or they have been in the past couple of years has also been another interesting topic. But they were really, their booth was really cool because they were right next to Square Enix and they were pretty large as well. But for me, it's like they were showing off the Metal Gear collection, which I think is just awesome. And it's like I told, you know, so many people know I haven't played Metal Gear yet, and I wear Kojima merch like 24/7. But I'm really excited to jump into my first Metal Gear. But it was cool to have that booth, like kind of make a statement that they're trying to revitalize their properties like Metal Gear. But to me, it gets me so excited of like, if that's what they're doing in Metal Gear right now, imagine like what other like games that are under the Konami compendium that they haven't utilized in the past couple of years that they might bring back. So that's what's really exciting to me.
I have a bone to pick with Konami.
Oh, hit me.
So this is our booth experience, right? So we're there on the Thursday, and we're trying to get like as much like free or cool merch as we can from the booths. And so we went to the Konami booth. Why do you look so surprised when I'm telling this?
I know.
You're trying to be a good audience member. So we were there, and I think the staff were wearing these like Metal Gear t-shirts. And we both wanted one, despite neither of us playing Metal Gear, any of them. And Arief was like, hey, can you read this thing in Japanese and figure out how to do it? And so I read it. And then just to be sure, I even like did the Google Translate, Google and scan just to make sure that my understanding was correct. And it was like just typical stuff, like upload a photo with the hashtag Metal Gear Solid, you know, in Japanese and all that. So we did the thing, right? Where we both took a photo with the booth, we posted it. And I went up to the staff member and I'm like, hey, I posted it. And he looked at me like I was insane. Like what, like, why are you showing me this? Why are you showing me your Twitter? Like, I don't care. And I was like, and I was trying to tell him like, oh, but that sign says you're meant to give me a t-shirt for what I just did. And he's like, like, wait a second. And he's like, you know, typical Japanese. I'm going to call my manager now. Yep. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why do you are standing right next to the sign that says what to do? Why do you not know what needs to be done? And he brings a manager, and then the manager like talks to me, and I like show him the thing. And he just goes like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, like, I think ushers us away. Thank you. And then ushers us away. And we're like, what did he say? Like, I don't understand.
The other thing as well was like, I think the timing, it said like from 10 a.m. to whatever. And until stocks last, you get the t-shirt. So we actually stood there because it was like 9:53. I was like, all right, let's wait 7 minutes.
100%.
Post our photo and get our t-shirt. Yep. And so we did, you know, we jumped through the hoops only for the guy to be like, oh, thank you for posting so generously about Konami. I was just like,
yeah.
I was like, all right, I've got 4 hours left. I gotta go. Like, this is not.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about it is that like I think I was catching up with people after, and I think it was Scott from Sigono, and we were just like talking about it because I think he's a huge Metal Gear person as well, and he was like, oh yeah, I wanted it, but apparently it's only for Japanese residents, and like they give it away after the show. And then I'm like, how did you get that? And he was like, oh, he's like, I read the sign or something like that, or like chatted with the folks or something. But like, supposedly they're for Japanese residents.
That's even worse.
I know, because
you
are.
He thinks I'm not a Japanese resident just because I don't speak like native Japanese.
Totally.
Wow, I'm writing. I'm gonna find their office on Google. Yeah. I'm gonna put like 1 star and be like.
Do you want to know the killer? Do you want to know what's even worse for me? I was catching up with. Amos from Hoyoverse, right? And we were hanging out and we were talking about TGS, and he said that supposedly if you play Metal Gear Solid at the booth, they have even cooler t-shirts in the back that they give to you, like the proper art design of the Metal Gear.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't know that. And he was like, yeah, man, I snagged the Metal Gear 3 one after I played my thing and then got out of there. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, this is the Konami booth, despite how big and awesome it was, is like, it definitely could have been communicated better because like
you know what it
awesome.
is? They knew these two fake ass people have never played a Metal Gear game. We're not going to give
deserve.
them a t-shirt.
Yep.
We were
oh god. Yeah, that was really funny. It's like a really funny story that I've been chatting with people. But I guess to move on, there's like talk about booths, right? I think weirdly enough, one of like the more interesting booths for me in terms of like a statement was Enotria, which was like on the other side of the hall, a little bit like towards the end section, but very impressive. But maybe before I get to Enotria, I don't know if you want to say some stuff about it as well.
Some stuff about it. Yeah, so like I guess like full disclaimer, I was working with the Enotria team for Tokyo Game Show, just helping out with their PR and just a couple like little marketing things here and there, because it's like they had a really big presence, particularly at Tokyo Game Show in this time, because Tokyo Game Show is where they officially announced Sega as their publisher in, I think, in Asia, officially, like not just Japan. And they also did like various stage things. They were on the IGN live stream, and then they did like a big reveal with IGN like globally as well, like I think with the US arm. So they were doing a whole bunch of different things. But genuinely, I just wanted to bring friends who I knew appreciated like Souls-like games, and including yourself, to come and check it out. And they did have a very, very big, impressive booth, like AAA. Oh, not like Sega level, but I would still consider it like kind of like AAA size, because it was just massive. And it's a really cool game. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, you know, when it comes out. It's a Souls-like set in sort of like Italian, it's inspired by the Italian summer, or the European summer, and the story is very rich in like Italian culture. So you'll see that just in like the aesthetic, the mask design. It is very, very cool. But yeah, maybe you can talk about your gameplay experience, because I died in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, again, like take everything with a grain of salt, I guess, if you will, right? Because whenever we are involved with games in whatever capacity, I think we try to disclose it as much as possible in the past as well, that we've done on the 20M podcast, right? But like from a perspective of like, I didn't know a lot about this game, despite you kind of like helping them out. It's like I went in completely fresh, and I've seen some of the collateral, some of the marketing collateral, but I'm just really happy, number one, because to me the booth was so interesting, because to me it was a statement. It was like, hey, we're investing a lot in this game, we believe a lot in this game, and we're gonna have a booth, like you said, that's not an indie booth, and it's not obviously the size of like the major AAA, but it is like a perfect convergence between the two, where it was large enough where it was like, this is they really believe in this game, whilst also being intimate enough where you can chat with the developers, you know, have a breathable enough amount of space. And I just thought the booth color and design was just really cool. But I guess in terms of the gameplay itself, I think it's awesome when we talk about like Souls-like type games. Like Life of P just came out earlier this year, and it's become one of those like major Souls-like copies, if you will, that is not from Souls. And I love that the genre, like at the end of the day, it's like Soul, like FromSoft are the masters of it because they created the genre, right? Essentially. But I love that people are trying to emulate it and make it their own. Where this one, again, it's like I love that they're bringing a different setting. To me, it's like we played a beautiful like sunset kind of like ambiance, like world, if you will. But if I'm not mistaken, the main mechanics is also changing your masks and changing your weapons related to it. So it just like feels like a Souls game, yet feels its own, because you can tell that it's deriving influence by it, but it's also trying to do its own thing. So my experience with it was like, it was still tough. I'm still a big dummy, and it's hard to play Souls games, like I guess like at Souls-like games at trade shows like this, because you're kind of thrusted into it. But to me, the art style is probably the most impressive thing, because even the booklets that they gave out was like, it's about their art, it's about the world and everything, and you can tell that the developers really care about what they're building from like what they're trying to show off perspective. And I've yet to see how like the actual bosses and gameplay actually like turns out. But again, for a developer like that to come out, and I mean, obviously we met the folks and they were so happy too. Is just, again, you talk about Tokyo Game Show, talk about trade shows, like that's what's beautiful about the games industry for me, where you can release something out to the world, make a statement, and then celebrate the accomplishment even without the game being out. Like obviously you said Sega was a partner there, but like the smiles on their faces is what I remember from TGS. It's just like, I'm so happy for them. They seemed so happy to like finally thrust it to the universe, you know?
Yeah, I think this is something that I talked about at Bit Summit with one of the organizers as well. Like a lot of game developers, you know, they grew up playing Japanese games. They grew up, you know, with this fascination about, you know, about Japan. So for them to have their game at Tokyo Game Show after seeing so many games that inspired them, so many games that they loved also at the same event, it really means a lot to them. And you can definitely feel it. Like, again, super hot, super awful conditions, but everyone was genuinely very happy somehow. Yeah. All right. Let's cover indies. Let's do like rapid fire, because there were so many to cover, and there were so many friends to just kind of hang out, support, and just chat with. But what were some of the ones you wanted to talk about in terms of the indies?
Yeah, I'll start with one that I've been eyeing for forever. And again, this is like another somewhat disclosure one, but like Everdeep Aurora is one of the games that I've been eyeing for forever. I think we first saw that at our wholesome direct reactions. And it was so funny because if you guys didn't see that reaction, if you haven't seen the things that we put up online, we saw the game and we were both like, that looks like a Usbrid game. You know what I mean? Like, is this like, because Brian from Usbrid is a friend of ours, right? But it's like, oh, that looks like a game. And it did.
And it was.
Yeah, and
like,
it was published by Usbrid. So, but Everdeep Aurora I've been eyeing for a while. I know you got to play it before, but I finally got a hands-on with it. And it is what like it looks like, where it feels very Hollow Knight-esque because you can tell in its world and its like art style, it is very Hollow Knight, but the gameplay itself is kind of like very interesting because it's non-combat. I think they've been very clear about that, but you're digging through this world, finding areas and secrets and obviously uncovering dialogue and NPCs and stuff like that. And it seems very therapeutic, where I think you start on a main level, you play as the cat that's like digging through the world. And I think they had to show me how to operate it or whatever, because I'm a big dummy when it comes to demoing games, but just kept digging and digging, just slowly digging. And then like talking to some people, uncovering, it's like, oh, what if I go this direction down? So the small time that I had with it just like, added a lot of curiosity. But I mean, if you're looking at the B-roll footage right now, the art style is just gorgeous. And the fact that you can play that type of art style to me is just phenomenal. So I loved my short time with Everdeep Aurora, and I can't wait to play more of it.
Yeah, it's great. It feels kind of endless. Like the fact that you can just go in any direction and just keeps going, and you're like, wow, like I can. It's just a game about digging. It's amazing. I also had an issue. I don't know if you had it, but my drill ran out of battery pretty early on because I think I was just like going in circles or something, and I was just and I couldn't get to the charger, so I was just like, I'm just gonna brute force this. So it's like, it's like imagine like your drill isn't working, just go like,
just smash it, yeah. Just
yeah. Like, you can't keep going. As I figured out, you just go very very slowly, which is a very gracious of the game to allow you to continue even when the battery's up. But yeah, really really excited for that to come out. One from me is a game I've been really excited for, which is Cuisineer. A friend of ours, Sean over at Battle Brew Productions. I've had a funny relationship with Cuisineer because the first time I saw them was at Tokyo Game Show last year, and then I saw them at Summit this year, and I've just never had a chance to play it because it's so freaking popular. It's so cute. It's Hades meets Diner Dash. The art style is amazing. It's being published by Marvelous and Exceed and looks exactly like a Marvelous Exceed game because of, the legacy with Story of Seasons and Rune Factory. So it makes complete sense that it'll be so packed, especially in Japan. But I finally got to play it at Tokyo Game Show this year, and it is really, really cute, really, really fun. Something I will absolutely get into.
Yeah, and I love the Battle Brew team out there. And I think it's the first time for me meeting non-Sean. Like the first, because I've seen Sean at so many shows as well, and obviously whenever we go down in Singapore, but like to meet the rest of the Battle Brew team is just so fun, and like I just love how fun they're having, and I'm very excited to, again, a Southeast Asian game, right, like a Singaporean game, like shown off at TGS like that under a phenomenal publisher. It's just like, it's cool as hell. Hopefully we get to play that soon.
A little shout out to Lydia, who I did not get to meet on the day she cosplayed as Palm.
I know.
But when I saw her cosplay, I was like, "Wow, you look exactly like Palm. You're so cute."
Can we steal Lydia's like Twitter photos or something to put up here because it was so awesome.
It was so awesome, and again so hot every time at these things. But she pulled it off. She was in her element. So amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right, next one.
So I want to talk about
more than I did.
Yeah, maybe I'll come back to another one, but let's see. So one of the ones that I want to briefly mention is we were walking through the indie section, and obviously we know a lot of Southeast Asian developers. I think we know most Southeast Asian developers that are that have projects that are in the works and whatnot, right? But there was one where I stopped by and I was with Dale from IGN, and we were like, "Oh, this game." And he's like, "Oh, I think this is a Thai game." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not familiar." So we walk up to it, and it's called LightSup, and it's this couch co-op kind of I think it is a roguelite at the end of the day, but it's just you're playing as these funny cartoon characters. You're going through each world, and you're trying to light these lampposts whilst fighting off hordes, and you have different classes. And it's such a funny one to bump into because out of all places to bump into a Southeast Asian developer, it's at Tokyo. You know what I mean? But I just had a nice, wonderful experience playing a couch co-op game, because most times when you're playing demos, it's usually individual and they'll add co-op later or some games like that, right? But this one, playable. I had an awesome run with Dale, and it's just so cute, and I loved the character design in this work. So it's one of those games that popped up in my radar that I didn't expect, but LightSup is definitely one of those ones that I'm going to be eyeing in the coming months to a year, I would say, by a Thai developer. I think they're called Bug Billow Studio.
Yeah, I'm looking at the art now. It is super cute. Definitely need more couch co-op games around. I definitely don't play enough of them.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess like on that note, I'll just rattle off like stop by the Gigabash booth. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like Gigabash, the kaiju, the arena brawler featuring kaiju monsters, with Godzilla as DLC. Like it's just prime for them to be in Japan, and it's awesome to see them. But I just had a lovely chat with CERN, the CEO of Passion Republic, the developers behind the game, and we're just catching up on just like TGS and all that kind of stuff. But to me, it just represents that games, despite being made in different parts of the world, can really service a global audience, but also to be able to go to a place and show off your game that is, I guess, inherently connected to the nature of your game. Like again, Tokusatsu and like Godzilla, for God's sakes, right? Is like the major DLC for their game. Is like for them to show it off at TGS is just so cool to me. So they had awesome merch there, and obviously we'll be talking about them more in the near future. But good to bump into folks like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a trade secret or something, but I hope CERN gives a talk one day about like how he wrangled the Godzilla IP. Yeah. Because that, like, even I'm sure like globally people, this is a thing, but even in Japan particularly, like they are very, very careful about how Godzilla is utilized, and it's just such a huge win that a Malaysian studio managed to work with it because of the significance of Godzilla even in our part of the world, and Tokusatsu, all this whole kaiju thing. Like a lot of Southeast Asians they just grew up with it. It's what we know. It was what was on TV. So amazing work by the Passion Republic folks.
Yeah. And then I guess like my last indie thing that I want to mention here, which totally blew me away and in a way that was expected, was I had no idea that the Baladins developers, I think Seed by Seed, right, is their studio, but like they were there at TGS. I saw somebody else posted on Twitter, and I think I responded, it's like, oh my God, they're here at the show. Like I need to go see them, which is again the beauty of like having a massive trade show like this. So you just are surprised by the people that are exhibiting sometimes, right? But Baladins was another one that we caught at the Wholesome Direct, and one that I was personally eyeing for quite a long time. And it's basically this like paper cutout board game style RPG scenario. But I was chatting with the dev, and I learned so much more about the game. So for example, like you're meant to uncover stories of that world, but you're only supposed to play in like a session within a couple hours. So it's one of those things where it's like you can uncover as much as possible. You end the cycle of the day, then you start from the beginning, but you retain the memories of like what you did, if you will. So they were describing it as kind of like Majora's Mask in a way as well, where there's that timer and like resetting all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's just like such a cool way to have like something accessible in a board game style fashion, where they are relatively quick sessions, but they add up to a greater experience. And the demo ended in a way where it's like fascinating lore, I guess, like is being put up to the players. But I'm just really more excited for Baladins after getting hands-on on it, and it's just so cool to see them again at TGS and to be able to play their build. So I'm really looking forward to when they fully launch that game.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one.
I think we're at like sort of like the crescendo of the episode. Let's tell the folks, how was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? What was it like, Arief?
So, Rino, I am overjoyed to share that I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I flipping loved it, to no one's surprise. I had a hands-on opportunity. It was there super early on one of the press days, was able to play one of the demos for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. For those that don't know, there were two demos that were available. Number one that follows Cloud and Sephiroth, and then another demo that follows the rest of the crew. So like Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Red 13, the whole crew, right? So I was choosing between the two, and I was like, okay, look, if I can only play one demo, I've got to play the one that is the larger crew. You know what I mean? So I played that, and I'm just gonna go full on to say that in the short time that I played the demo, you can tell that, again, much like other sequels that we've been chatting about recently, whether it be Spider-Man or God of War or whatever have you, this game just elevates what it has before. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake seems like the bedrock and their like starting point, when Rebirth feels like they're really trying to like add on to it, and it is similar yet different in so many ways. I'll mention a couple of small things, like the UI choices in this game is immediately something that you'll notice. So for example, the menu is a little bit different. You can go into items, and I don't know if there's actual item crafting. I could be mistaken, but we can find that details. But there's a whole separate menu for that. But even in the way that your UI looks on the screen, it just feels more polished, and polished in a way that's like not that it runs smoother. It's just more visually appealing. So I think there are moments where there's like some small animations for when you scroll through the characters or abilities and whatnot, but also when you accept a mission and stuff like that. It just like the gorgeous UI UX kind of like experience of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is what caught my attention immediately. I'll just go through my thoughts of like the demo that I played was much like you've seen probably online a lot of it. You're running through the Junon area, and you're kind of doing some small like quests along the way. You're kind of like defeating enemies, but then it ends with a giant boss battle, which is the fish. I'm such a Final Fantasy VII, like, I've only played Final Fantasy VII once, but you're battling this giant fish. But then in this game, I think you're introduced to Yuffie at that section. So they changed up Yuffie's origin as opposed to her robbing you in the middle of the forest. Like, this is kind of where the team first encounters Yuffie, which was really cool. And in a nutshell, the reason why I'm so like flabbergasted with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is that you forget that Square Enix knows how to do cutscenes and knows how to build like climactic moments. Like, you just forget that they are masters of that craft. You know what I mean? Where it's emotions, it's story, it's comedy, it's gameplay, and all of it, like, again, like you said, just crescendos in a way that is just so beautiful. So the boss fight that I did was tactical and it was awesome. And I'll quickly mention that the major difference now between a remake and Rebirth is that you can do these like synergy moves between characters, which I think you saw in the Integrate DLC with Yuffie, but it's obviously more expanded now. But it's so cool when you have like Aerith and Red 13 in the party, you do your power move and it just cuts into this little cutscene, like, like animation of them playing off each other and doing a big move. And the same thing with Cloud and Red 13 was mine when I Cloud and Aerith. So I was doing that throughout the boss fight and going through it, and it just felt awesome. Again, the magic of remake where you can kind of like do quasi RPG where you could kind of choose your moves and it slows down a little bit and like, okay, I'm going to queue this thing up and I'm going to search through my items to check whilst it being in real time is just such like, why change it if it worked in the first one? But I'll say that it balances music, gameplay, and then like the cutscenes in between whenever you're going from the second, first phase, second phase or whatever, to where I got emotional. I don't know how an epic fight got me like, my heart racing and like a little bit emotional, but I was like, oh my God, you forget how great Square Enix is as a developer. So I'm just blown away by Final Fantasy VII, the short time that I had with Rebirth. And it just makes me, again, so excited for the game, like, obviously. The one thing that I'm hesitant about is that when we're walking through the open world area, it seemed not barren per se, but you can kind of feel the linearity to it, where similar to 16, I guess similar to 10 or whatever, I think it is giant open world segments, I think is what they clarified, but you're still guided to a direction. I don't know if it was a demo build, but I just couldn't find the right path sometimes, or maybe I was overwhelmed, or there were some moments where I feel like maybe that's what I'm really nervous about in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, even though they say it's a bit bigger. But when it comes to moment to moment, like, God, I know if that's what they show the demo, what are they going to show in the full game is like going to be so exciting for me.
I haven't, so I didn't get a chance to play the demo, but I've been like following the game quite closely on Twitter, and I just love that I haven't taken it too seriously, even though it's such an epic sort of like masterpiece in their repertoire, right? Like, you got that, not even meme, it's like actual footage of like Cloud on a Segway in that part of the game. And then there's this big debate about like why Red 13 is on a chocobo. Why can't, like, why is it like, I think the fans are debating like, if he is on a chocobo, like, should it be like that way, like holding it with two paws, or should it be like the other way? And then and the whole argument of like, why is he even on a chocobo? And I think they finally like talked about it where it was like, well, there's going to be a part of it where people are like on flying chocobos, and he can't just like spin his tail like Tails from Sonic and just follow along. And this morning I actually I'm jet lagged, and they had the voice actors do a bit of a panel at New York Comic Con.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was so funny. One of my personal favorites is Max Middleman, who actually voices Ito in Genshin. That's how I first came to know him, but he is the voice of Red 13. And they're kind of going like voice actor by voice actor, saying like, what's your warm-up routine to get ready for the role? And Max was like deadpan face, just like, I just get on all fours and I howl at the moon to get me in the mood of like Red 13. Is like so funny. So I just feel like they've got like the ingredients for like the perfect game, right? Like all of everything you just said, but also just this like humor and genuine love by the cast, and a game that just doesn't like take itself too seriously as well. Like
Final Fantasy VII's wacky as hell, you know what I mean? And it's like, I love that they're retaining it, because again, like, to oscillate between major beautiful set pieces, and then there's just some comedic moments in my gameplay. I was like, that's flipping hilarious, like they have fun with it. So I'm excited. Matt Mercer announced that he's playing Vincent Valentine. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, this has the ingredients to be like one of the best Final Fantasy games in like obviously because it's Final Fantasy VII, but the time at which the fact that I played it and it felt good right off the bat, like no questions asked kind of scenario was like, I don't know. It's so hard for this game to go wrong, which is kind of like also a recipe for disaster at the same time. But like you're kind of right. Like this is it's just teed up in a perfect way. So we have to see where they actually take the direction of Final Fantasy. The biggest question obviously is like, what are they going to do? Where are they going to stop? I know they've mentioned that they will stop before a certain segment in the game and all that kind of stuff. But if they're elevating, like if they don't have to spend the time doing so much tech and R&D and they can focus on story, they can focus on like moment to moment gameplay, like you can kind of tell that that's the direction they're going. My God, I can't believe I played it. It's like, it's flipping awesome.
That is super cool. All right, I guess like a couple of last few notes before we wrap things up. I did want to mention the Nintendo bar experience that we had, and I think the moral of the story here is like, obviously a lot of us are here in Tokyo for business. A lot of our friends are devs, and then we're there as media. And the amount of effort it takes to like wrangle everyone that we love and care about into like one space, while taking into account like all these different schedules. Like some people are at some embassy dinner, some people are setting up their booths, some people are arriving like that morning, and it was like just insane collision. But somehow we managed to get everyone at the famed Nintendo bar. So it's in a hidden location. Prior to the pandemic, you could only come via invitation, as in someone who is already a member of the bar has to bring you. Whereas now, if you want to do the tour with the bar, you can pay some amount of money and do it in the afternoon. But because I was brought there before by another friend, I was able to bring everyone to the evening section, which is members only. And it's pretty cool. I think if you're a huge Nintendo fan, the entire place is like an homage to basically every classic, every important Nintendo title. And the owner himself, Chokan-san, who's really friendly, really lovely. He was a former Nintendo employee. He's just an awesome dude. But yeah, what did you think, Arief, as someone who had seen it for the first time as we walked in?
No, it's cool. It was like, we kind of knew what we were expecting. I've seen a little bit of footage. I've seen a little bit of like coverage of that bar, but it's just so cool to be in that place. I think the funniest story was that like, there's a bunch of plushes in the area. And like one of the segments was like, there was a bunch of Pokemon plushes. And I think one of the people that we were with, they were like asking the owner, I think the owner is like, wife, if I'm not mistaken, it's like, oh, can we pick them up, right? And she's like, yes, carefully and all that kind of stuff. And then they picked up the Psyduck, and it was like, oh, very cute Psyduck. And then the owner's wife was like, oh, like turn the Psyduck upside down, and then you turn it upside down, and it's like, oh my God, that's a signed Psyduck plushie. I can't remember if it was like Shinichi Suda or somebody else from Pokemon Company, but it's a treasure trove of history. And to be at a place where we can gather friends and talk about games, and also not talk about games, and be present in Japan, whilst also being in a place that has so much like literal, like each knickknack in that area probably has a story to tell about the video games industry, you know what I mean? Or like the people that have like made it. It's just, I don't know. I felt like a kid in a toy store kind of scenario where it's like, I cannot believe that this thing next to me exists, So it was such a cool experience, but it was lovely conversations with friends as well. So beautiful to share that moment.
Yeah, it's not a big place, so it's very small. You can only have a certain number of people, and it's a great place to sort of hang out, have these like cute little chats. It's not noisy unless your group makes it noisy. But I think like, yeah, if anyone listening to the podcast is interested, you just look it up. It's called 84 Bar. They're on Instagram, they're on Twitter. Check it out. If you're into games and you're coming to Tokyo, I highly recommend. You can book the lunchtime experience where it's like a tour. He talks to you about all the little bits and pieces inside his bar. Super worth it. Just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just like, again, the art and so like the drawings everywhere that were from the creators of those like properties. It's like, what a geek out like moment, So just so cool.
Absolutely.
Go check it out.
Was there anything from Tokyo Game Show that you kind of felt like?
Oh my God! I'm gonna say that like if there's any learnings, if there's any learnings for Tokyo Game Show next year, I mean, again, number one, I'll just like say like that, appreciate being official media. Like I love covering the show. I loved like being able to talk to devs. I love being able to like go through those like press preview, like whatever, just like experiences, right? But I think I now know how to navigate TGS, where I forget how many people, like amazing influential figures, are probably going to be at TGS. So one of them, Kojima, had a booth, right? But obviously Kojima was in Europe, like Instagramming his European adventures or whatever, right? So we knew he wasn't going to be at TGS. And it was funny because I was at the business area, the meeting area, if you will, which is like a separate section of the show, mostly because there was air conditioning, there was refreshments, and it was where people were setting up meetings. So it was just like beautiful place to hang out. And we bumped into the devs behind the Ghost Machine devs from Katana Rama in Malaysia. And we were just chatting, hanging out, and then he was like, oh, hey, check out this photo that I just got. And it shows us his phone. And it's a photo with Shinkawa, which is like the artist from Metal Gear. And then I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, was that like now? He's like, yeah, it was like 15 minutes ago. Is that the booth? He was just walking around the Koji Pro booth. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, there's no flipping. I would have like just gushed out about like the Metal Gear art, you know? And like, if I had my magic card, I think I have it here somewhere of like the Yoji Shinkawa, like, art thing. I was like, just like so many things, just like this would be awesome to meet this man. And I was like, next time this happens, we got to set up a group chat and our like people at TGS, and it's like and it's just like a alert system where it's like emergency, like this person is at the booth, go, because it's like, because especially during the business days, it's a little bit more relaxed. Like you don't have a lot of the public crowds, and they're doing work there, and we're doing work there. But it would just be nice to have a small moment, right, where that you interact with fans and whatnot. And to me, I was hanging out at the Final Fantasy Rebirth like booth area on the Friday morning, and I think I was lining up and I was playing the game. Supposedly at the same time, like Kitase himself was there hanging out, just like walking around, like nobody, barely people were approaching. It was just kind of like very casual, you know what I mean? And same with, I think Yoshi P came around that time as well. And it's like, to not be like an event where they're ushered by security and they're like very purposely there. Obviously they have a panel throughout the weekend where they're just kind of just like hanging out. To me, I'm just like, I need to be more aware at TGS because you never know who you're going to bump into just like casually. Right. So that was my biggest thing. I was like Yoko Shimomura. I like the fact that I missed Yoko Shimomura. She was doing some casual signings at the music section. I was just like so heartbroken. I was like, I only saw that like the night of like or something like that she was there. And it's like, I mean, I've met Shimomura before and signed my Kingdom Hearts stuff, but you know, just to be in the same area, to be like, my God, your music makes me cry, and I need to tell you that again. You know, so funny missed opportunities. But on the flip side, another Reno hates RF kind of a scenario. I was hanging out with June, and June was like, "Oh, hey, like, just hanging out with Brax right now. You wanna come hang out?" And we're like, "What?" like Genshin Brax? And it was like, "Yeah, just come, dude." It's like we're out in the foyer, so we. Met Brax, lovely dude, had a nice conversation about, you know, just general like content creation stuff and Hoyoverse. Actually, I mean, for the people that don't know Brax, like how would you describe Brax? Really?
Brax is he's a guide maker, basically. So he makes guides about how to build characters for Genshin Impact and for Honkai Star Rail. I think he does a bit of Honkai 3rd Impact as well. But basically he's just awesome. He makes really amazing guides, really easy to understand, and just like really funny too. Like I think that's kind of key because like some of this content can kind of be a bit dry, but he's up there. He's one of my go-tos at least for learning how to like build characters. So awesome. Very jelly that you got to meet him in person. I've only spoken to him on the phone on a call for an article that he was very gracious to give me his time for.
Yeah, but it's just like again funny because I've seen some of his content, and I'm not the biggest Genshin player, but like, you know, respect the craft kind of a scenario. But to have people in person there and connect via industry, you know, and it's just like, hey, I saw you were there. Like I think he was like, oh, I saw like June said he was at TGS via Twitter, so Brax reached out to June via DM, and it just became this, and then we were all hanging out together. It's just the beauty of the games industry is that it's not about platforms. It's not about like AAA versus indie. It's about people who just love games and love like nerd events and like nerd culture. And to be able to share that and have conversations with people, no matter if you're like a major content creator, if you're a podcast, if you're working for a platform, it epitomized my like the end to TGS for me. Where it's like, I love going to these things because we can work the shows and we can do coverage and we can talk to people, we can keep updated and all that kind of stuff, and you know, film and make content. But at the end of the day, it's those intimate kind of like perchance moments where, despite how much I missed out of some of the people, and like I know you missed out a little bit with some of the people, I love that we can have some of those micro moments with people we weren't expecting as well at these shows.
Yeah, Tokyo Game Show, awesome. Can't wait for next year. It takes a big toll on the body though. So I say that I've recovered now somewhat. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready for next year. But it is a mammoth of an event, and hopefully I'll be around for a bit longer next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, right, I think that's it for our TGS coverage.
TGS highlights. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. If you are interested in any of the games we talked about, if you want to yell at Arief for meeting my idols without me, like drop a note in the comments.
I just put the ending message is just me and Harada-san. It's like, say no to Reno or something. Yeah.
Take care, folks. Have a great one.
Yep.